It was interesting just now. Dad comes to me as I'm going to go in and do my prayers. He says, I want to start studying with you a little bit at night, the thing that you do. Which is interesting that it happened today, because I had just come back from reading about the 22 letters of the alphabet as being the river that came out of Eden to water the garden. And this watering of the garden is by the use of the 22 letters of the alphabet. And previous to this, 3 hours ago, earlier in the day, Dad, who's 95 years old and having some breathing problems and speaking problems, was lying on the couch, and all of a sudden he recited the English alphabet. And the English alphabet, going from A to B to C, to going through all the letters and then coming to Y, which can be taken as a question. And he seemed to be fixated on Y. For some reason he was able to speak more on Y, and more air came out on Y. And so what happens here, he got his breath back, he got his cognition back from reciting the English alphabet. And he said it would help him when he was enunciating the letters. These muscular movements of the enunciation. This is the same thing in the Hebrew alphabet. The 5 places in the mouth, corresponding to the 5 dinim, corresponding to the lips, to the teeth, to the tongue, to the palate. And how the breath goes through these letters. This is how the world was created, and this is a river that comes out of Eden to water the garden. And intuitively, Dad had this as his cure earlier in the day, and then he comes to me and he wants to start in with Judaism, so to speak, in this domain. And what's the best way to start? In my opinion, it's always with Bereshit. So we're going to start and include Dad here. But you see, it's already done. So here we are. We're going to include Dad and have a middle, an open middle. And the way we start is always with the letter Bet in Bereshit. The large letter Bet. And why does the Torah start with the letter Bet? Shouldn't it start with the letter Aleph? The Bet is number 2. Why does the Torah start with the letter Bet? Why does it start with 2 instead of 1? So that's the first question I'm going to ask Dad here. Why do you think the Torah starts with a Bet instead of an Aleph? Remember, it's Bereshit. 2 starts. Bereshit. 2 starts. Well, it says with the start, but basically Bet is always the letter 2, the number 2. And remember, numbers are higher than letters. So numbers come from Chokhmah, letters come from Bina. So Chokhmah, Bina, letters from Abba, numbers from Abba, letters from Ima. So there are 2 starts. And this is, why do you think there are 2 starts? Dad, there's no correct answer. Since the beginning of Torah, there's only been discussion here. There's an infinite number of responses depending on what your level of being is that particular day. The next day when you wake up and you're a different mode, a different soul, a different part of your own soul, you'll have a different answer to the same question. So if I ask you now, why does the letter start with the letter bet? Let me give you some of the unfolding processes of that. Notice there are two people in the camera now. You want to study what I'm studying. Studying comes from a dialogue of two. In all my other videos, I'm the only one there. I'm the Aleph. But once there's two people there, that's the bet. So the social is two. The individual is one. The thing that makes Judaism is the community of Israel. It's the multiplicity. It's God, it's Hashem and Yisrael. There has to be a two-ness to have a echad, a unity. One is a singularity, but two, or multiplicity, permits the unity. So the bet in the beginning is a social thing. And the Torah, that's why we study it. Torah study is together. It's a social enterprise. And so the bet is basically sociability. It's culture. It's the world. And that's why the river, which are the letters of the Torah, came out of Eden to water the garden, to water the earth. You see? And so that's where it is. So, and in fact, there's some allusion to this even here in a more specific sense, because it says, Bereshit bara Elohim. And so, though, you know, very often in the explication of this first phrase, they say, Bereshit bara Elohim, like Elohim in the beginning created, or the beginning, Bereshit bara created Elohim. That's a very deep level, how the beginning created the name Elohim. But they take that threeness as a oneness there, in the Bereshit bara Elohim, and then what did that creation do? What did that Bereshit bara Elohim do? The first thing you get there is Et, Aleph Tov. And the rabbis have brought that down into being the Hebrew letters. The Hebrew letters, Aleph, and they end with Tov. So the first creation, you see that? That is Aleph Tov. Bereshit, in the beginning, bara, created, Elohim, by God or whatever. Et, he created the letters of the alphabet. So when you're lying there doing your meditation or your physical work and using the letters of the English alphabet, you're just using the letters of alphabet in general, in its root, to create the Et Hashamayim ve'et ha'oretz. You're creating everything by the use of these letters, which, if you really want to know, is self-evident. Because it's self-evident that everything comes out of letters. All speech comes out of letters, all writing comes out of letters. Everything comes out of the alphabet. So these 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet starts with Aleph and ends with Tov. Et. See that? Et. Yeah. Aleph Tov. So the first creation, I didn't make this up by the way, is Aleph Tov, the letters. Only with the letters can everything come about. So that's what I'm trying to say is, when you wanted to study today, you said, oh, I want to do some of the stuff that you're doing. Basically, you were doing some of the stuff that I'm doing.
By doing what I was doing.
By doing what you were doing. I'm going to repeat this. He was doing some of the stuff that I was doing by doing what he was doing. See? And this is how things come down. Even though he was doing it in the English letters, you see? It's created in the Hebrew letters, but as things come down into life, they come down also into the multiplicity of other languages. And that's a dispersion into the 70 languages that, happened. And so basically what I wanted to do here today, I just wanted to show you that what you were doing is what I was doing. Or what I'm doing now is what you were doing previously. You see? So we're going to start a little bit more here, because the bet is that two, you see, I think everything has two-ness in it. So Bereshit, two reshis, two starts.
Two what?
Two start. Reshit means to start. There's always two starts. There's two starts of the Jewish year. There's Rosh Hashanah, which actually has 2 days, and then there's Pesach. One is the start of the years, which is Rosh Hashanah, and Pesach is the start of the Jewish months. So the months and the years each have their own start. There's also two Pesachs. There's Pesach, regular Pesach, and then there's Pesach Sheni. There's two Pesachs, you see? There's two of everything. 2 hands, 2 lips, 2 ears. Mm-hmm. Everything is in a duality. There's 2 starts to everything. And this
Why is that?
Well, that's the whole point. Why is that? You know why? And that's the beauty of Pesach Sheni. Remember, Pesach is probably the most fundamental thing of Judaism. So how could there be a Pesach Sheni?
What's Sheni?
Sheni means second Pesach. 30 days after Pesach, there's a Pesach Sheni for those who were far removed and couldn't bring the Pesach sacrifice. Or like what happened to us once. We were traveling. We couldn't observe Passover. For them who were 30 days after Pesach, you can celebrate Pesach Sheni, right, because you couldn't celebrate the real Pesach. You understand what I'm saying? So so here's the principle of Pesach Sheni. There's always a second chance. So if you offend somebody, you can make it up. You go and apologize and start in again. The basic principle in Judaism is that there's always a second chance. See? Where does that second chance come from?
Yeah.
From that right here. Yeah. From the first word in the Torah. 2 starts. Bereshit. The letter bet itself. But especially Bereshit, that there's always a second chance. 2 starts. Now, there are many other things like this. Quite frankly, it's found in Mila and Peria. It's found in circumcision when you do Mila and Peria. It's found in Ishus when you do Kedushin and Nesuin. There's always 2 stages of everything. There's never one, you see. And the second stage comes back and makes the first stage even higher. There's a thing that in the Talmud, it says there's no, as I said in a previous video, There's no milah without pariah. Quite frankly, kedushin is enough to make a marriage. But what do? They make nesuin. That makes the kedushin even higher. The second stage makes the first stage even higher. So in a certain sense, after you have a fight with somebody and you make up, you get to a higher stage of the original relationship than you do if there was no makeup or if there was no fight in the first place. Even that guy that we had a fight with at the tennis. You understand? The second stage makes it higher than the first stage ever was. And that's all found in the bet and in the rashis. You see? Bereshit. Understand? So that's one of the fundamental things here. That there's always two. That's what's found in the word Bereshit. And that's, to answer your question, that's fundamentally what I do at night. When I study this, it's always nice to study it with a partner, if one has a partner. But if one doesn't have a partner, then one has to do it themselves and find his other self as the partner. In a certain sense, that's what I've said about speaking into the computer. My image is my study partner when I speak into it. Now my image has been shifted and my speech has been shifted to you. But otherwise I'm talking to my self as a object. Again, two. Everything is a dichotomy. Everything is a split. If you know that, you don't have to get out of the first word of Torah. Everything is found in the letter Bet. Even the letter Aleph is found in the letter Bet. Because the Aleph, which is the symbol of Hashem, of the names of God, is found in relationship between God and the Jewish people, which was the reason of the creation and for the creation in the first place. God wanted the Jewish people as his marriage mate. And this is what's happening, and it's found in the concept of Bereshit. And with that, I'm going to end the first little Torah discussion we had tonight, and we'll continue.
What is this, Bereshit?